let's paint the black armor on Ghazghkull Thraka today. Welcome back to the channel, collectors. So Ghazghkull has been assembled. He's a really big model and he's really complex. So in the first stage, what we're gonna do, we're gonna focus on the black armor on Ghazghkull Thraka. So if you're ready, let us begin. So these are the colors that we'll be using: ivory, German beige, dark sea green, and scale color black. So I'm going to start by mixing the first highlight. We're going to do this in progressive layers. This is sort of the first highlight that we're going to do. And the next highlight we're going to do. So just these two colors. I'm going to be painting with a pretty old brush. I'm going to try to get a brush without the tip. Okay, I'm going to show you in a bit. So the brush I'm going to use is something like that. It's old. The tip is kind of gone, but it's still a Kolectiv Sable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of get a strange tip like this. Need the paint to be very dry. Okay, you want to dry it up. You want to have jam it and create a sort of like a frayed tip like that. Okay, we're gonna begin. So we're gonna start with the first highlight. As you can see, the first highlight, what I'm doing here is I'm breaking the tip so that there's no tip. I'm sort of very roughly doing a dry brush, but this dry brush, the paint consistency is very thick. While it's thick, it's not dry, so that you still get to see the brush strokes. Okay, for the illustration purposes of this first step, I'm only going to use the shoulder armor, and you can do the same steps with the rest of the body armor. In subsequent steps, I will be using the entire body of Ghazghkull so that you can see where I place the highlights. As you can see right now, I'm gradually building up the rough surfaces, and you can really tell when these surfaces are built up. So now on to the second highlight. With the second highlight, I want to do it in a more controlled fashion. Using the second highlight, I'm still brushing towards where the highlight is supposed to be strongest, and I want to make sure that the brush strokes do not exceed the first highlight. Okay? As you can see, I'm being a little bit more careful right here. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna bring some structure back to the chaos. So what I've done is we are Lamy medium here. Then I'm gonna add in a bit of scale 75 intensity black. We're gonna create a black glaze. So with this black glaze, I'm gonna start cleaning up the surfaces. So right now, I'm gonna use the black glaze to start to shadow in the areas which we have overbrushed. This gives the entire armor some structure without making the whole piece look too messy. Okay, as you can see, I'm focusing the black glaze in where the shadows will show. You want the black glaze to show very gently without making the entire armor look too contrasty and too mottled. The black glaze will appear more black when it's wet. However, when it's dry, it will look a lot less. It will look more subtle. As you can see right here, it's a very gradual process, and you want to do it in multiple layers. Alright, next, I'm going to do sort of like a very controlled dry brush so that I give the entire armor more structure. So this is done with German beige, dark sea green, and black. You want to create a very light desaturated grey. As you can see right here, it's a very controlled process where you just gradually highlight in very small successions the area which you have not done the black glaze, so that the entire armor gets to stand out. Because the black glaze gives it some shadow, you want to have some highlight to contrast this to make the entire armor look more structured without allowing it to look too messy. So I'm now going to make a very thin wash consisting of burnt umber pigment. You want to make this really thin because you don't want too much of this. You don't want the wash to be too thick. Okay, just a little bit. And I'm going to add a bit of Vallejo airbrush thinner just to create this wash. Make sure the wash is really thin, just a filter. About this consistency is good. Okay. So we are going to do a uniform wash all over the miniature. This wash signifies the dirt and grit being built up on this very dirty black armor. You want to do this in multiple layers so that the pigment can build up very gradually and naturally. This will show in the final results. You want to do this in multiple layers, as you can see. And dry it off, and when it's finally dry, this is the effect. So what you want to do, you want to take a cotton bud mixed in with a bit of airbrush thinner to remove the excess. Why I can do this is the step prior to this, the black has already been varnished with matte varnish, so it protects the black paint underneath while you remove the excess pigment like that. So this is the final result, as you can see. Drying it off. Alright. As you can see, the armor is looking very weathered right now. Next, I'm going to sponge on some chipping. And then I'm going to just use ordinary sponge. But how I'm doing it is that I'm slightly plucking the rough edge so that it has a irregular finish. Next, I'm gonna start using Scale 75 trash metal. Okay, so now I'm gonna use the sponge. I'm gonna dab a bit of Scale 75 trash metal. I'm gonna continue dabbing until I get an irregular pattern, as you can see right here. Once you get an irregular pattern, you can proceed onto the miniature. So right now you want to do it very gently. Remember, the rule is less is more. You want to do this sponging in areas where you think the armor will get scratched and chipped. So this usually happens in the corners, and it happens at the exterior areas more than the interior areas. Okay, so you want to do this very lightly. So as for the knees, you want to do this more towards the knees because sometimes Ghazghkull might fall down and scruff his knees. Areas where the armor will meet other armor pieces will also be chipped and scratched. So you want to gradually and very slowly just add more chips. This process is done very lightly. Always test on somewhere else before going back onto the miniature. You want to make sure that the shape is exactly how you want it before going onto the miniature. One common mistake that newbies always do is that they don't test it and they go straight onto the armor and it becomes very blotched. So you want to make sure that you get very little paint on the miniature, as little as possible. Okay? I'm going to create an edge highlight color after the stippling to create more structure onto the miniature. This is done using German beige, dark sea green, a bit of black, and we're going to start edge highlighting. So at this stage, you want this edge highlight to be very subtle. You don't want too much of this to show up, as you just want to highlight the form, and you want to do this as liberally as you can. So at this stage, try to focus on all the sharp edges so that when the viewer looks at the miniature, all these edges look as sharp as possible. So you also want to be focusing on the chips, and we'll be showing you the final result of the edge highlighting very soon. So after the edge highlighting results, what you can see is a very structured looking piece. Alright. So next we're going into the little details. I'm using scale 75 intensity black to start sketching out the checks on Ghazghkull's armor. So to draw a straight line, sometimes what I like to do is you just draw little feathered lines from one end all the way to the other end. And what I'm going to do next, I'm going to divide this into two using the same technique. Alright. And then I'm going to start drawing equidistant squares so that these can be the checkered patterns that will appear on Ghazghkull's armor in a bit. At this stage, you don't want to rush. This is also just a sketch. Afterwards, you can also always change this if you find the armor not equidistant enough. Next, I'll be filling in the checks with medium grey. You don't want to use white for this stage because once you use white, it would look very out of place and it's very hard to highlight over this. So why I use a medium grey, I want to make sure that this white paint that's on the black armor looks like it's very worn down. And it's a very good question why I don't paint the whole thing grey first and then paint the black squares in, because I still want the black squares to have the weathered pattern which we did just now. So this gives it a bit more randomness and it allows the piece to look a lot more realistic. We are going to use the same technique right here on the jaw piece. So just relax and enjoy. So next we're going to create a highlight. So I'm going to use a bit of white and black to make a lighter grey. And we're going to start highlighting the checks. So when you're highlighting the checks, you want to make sure that you highlight based on the form of the miniature rather than highlighting the shape. Okay, so as you can see this jaw piece, I'm highlighting where the light will usually be highlighted on the actual piece. I'm creating a very sketchy pattern as this Ghazghkull. I'm not going to do any blending at all. I'm challenging myself not to create any blends to see how the final result looks. And I'll put the entire piece together and you can see how this entire piece looks once the black armor is complete. So this is the final result. I'm really happy of how the armor turned out, and in the next video we'll be doing the silver NMM. So what do you think of the armor? Let me know in the comments below. So what I really like about this is that I used pigments, and pigments tell a lot of story, like where Ghazghkull has been fighting, his armor hasn't been maintained, and so on and so forth. So do you find this tutorial useful? If you found it useful, please like, subscribe, really appreciate it. Share it all around social media, and please hit the bell notification icon so you know when our next video is coming up. Our next video coming up would be the silver NMM, steel NMM, which we'll be doing for Ghazghkull Thraka on his claws and his gun. They'll be coming out this week. This week is stay home and paint week, so please follow us and we'll be posting videos daily. Okay, so if you really want to support this channel, please head on to the Patreon and become a Patreon. Patrons get early access to many of my tutorials, and you guys get to interact with me so that we become better painters together. And it keeps me producing awesome content like this. I hope you guys support me, and I'll see you guys in the next video where we continue painting Ghazghkull Thraka. See you!